Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets powered by FTN right here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here with you, Mean Streets, presented by So Rare, a new fantasy sports game where you collect digital cards, create lineups based on the cards you collect, enter contests, and win a little bit of cash. A lot to get to here on this show. That's right, Daily Handle. Always ready to go here live on our FTN Network YouTube page. If you are hanging out with me, smash the like button. You have any comments, any questions, you can always leave them there. You're watching on Game Plus Network. You can hop on over as well. The show also available on iTunes and Spotify, wherever it is as you listen to your favorite podcast. We're going to hit up the Big Four today. Also going to hit up the PGA. That's right. The Players Championship gets underway tomorrow. We have Alex Blickle, who is the Golf Writer of the Year, FSWA winner. And I'm super excited to break down the Players Championship with him. If there's a fifth major, if there was a fifth major, it would be this one as we inch a little bit closer to the Masters. But the Players Championship happening tomorrow. So we're going to dive into Alex's strategy when it comes to DFS and a couple golfers who he may be feeling. And I got a couple names I like as well. But I'm not fooling anybody. I'm not a golf expert. But I got a couple picks, and I'm going to run them by Alex to see how he feels about those picks. I don't feel like this is it. You hit for show, you drive for show, you putt for dough, right? But I don't feel like this is a tournament where your putter needs to be that fantastic. We've seen winners here in the past, Justin Thomas a couple years ago. We've seen golfers here have some success and not the best putter. So going to talk about some statistics and things like that Alex looks at. Of course, he's got all kinds of content over at FTN Daily, FTNFantasy.com, FTNBets.com, as well as Hot Takes article, all kinds of strategy pieces and advice for every single golf tournament. The Discord channel is absolutely active. It is smoking. We have a PrizePicks video up on our FTN Network YouTube page right now from Kyle Murray. And of course, Alex is the co-host of Pro versus Pro, which he sat down with Kyle Murray, and they walked through a lot of everything that this tournament has to offer. So we're going to talk a little golf on this show. 3 games on the ice. We have some NHL picks and some props. 7 games on the hard court. We have some NBA props and some picks as well. Did not get Desmond Bain. That was just, he didn't shoot the ball well at all. But we did have a couple picks right in the bet tracker. If you're looking to be part of the FTN family, you can use promo code Meaney. Save yourself a little bit of cash. You get all the picks across all sports from everybody over at FTN, including some projections tools, Discord channel, all that good stuff there for you. So we're going to hit, as I mentioned, the Big Four. Included in that Big Four, of course, the NFL. Yesterday was the deadline to place the franchise tag on your players. We saw the New York Giants. They signed 2 running backs yesterday. They put the franchise tag on Saquon Barkley, and they gave Daniel Jones a 4-year, $160 million contract. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Lamar Jackson has the non-exclusive franchise tag. We'll talk about what that means as well. As teams could sign Lamar, Ravens will have an opportunity to match. And if they decide that they don't want to match, then the Ravens will get themselves 2 first-round picks. But they did save themselves a little bit of money with the non-exclusive as opposed to the franchise tag, 32.4 for Lamar Jackson. And immediately after it was announced that he was signed, or the Ravens had the non-exclusive franchise tag on him, there were like 5 or 6 teams right away. I'm out. That's it. I'm out. I'm not interested. And I don't understand why all these teams would not be interested. I get it. There's a nice few quarterbacks that you could take in the draft this year. But listen, Lamar has shown us a hell of a lot more than Daniel Jones has. Daniel Jones is coming off a 15 touchdown season. He's had 1 good year in the NFL. Lamar Jackson's a former MVP. As I mentioned yesterday on the show, he carried that Ravens squad that season where they had numerous amount of injuries. Tons. I can't even form sentences. It was so many injuries, offensive, defensive, lack of weapons through the air. We've already talked about the wide receiver room, the lowest cap in the NFL last year. And in 5 of the last 6 seasons, they've been bottom 5 in the NFL. We already talked about Rashad Bateman a couple weeks ago. The back and forth on Twitter, maybe not so much back and forth, but it was certainly Rashad Bateman calling out the GM just a couple weeks ago as well. So we'll see what happens with Lamar Jackson, if he does get the money that he wants, if he even plays on this tag, or if there is a team or two that's going to reach out to him and maybe they work out a deal as Lamar is his own agent here. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of days. Also with Aaron Rodgers, we're going to just do this song and dance every year, I think, with Aaron Rodgers, reportedly meeting with the New York Jets. The Packers gave him permission. So, he meets with the Jets, coaching staff, offensive coordinator. What does it mean? Right? I mean, if this guy decides that he wants to go back to Green Bay, I'm done with this news. I'm even going to bring it up next year because we probably will do the same song and dance like we did last year. Right? We did the year before with Aaron Rodgers, and we're doing it again. We'll see what happens with him. I know a lot of Jets players are tweeting at Aaron Rodgers, hoping that he can come. Sauce Gardner saying he won't wear the cheese hat and he won't pick him off in practices if he's a member of the Jets. I wonder really how Zach Wilson feels. Remember Zach Wilson, when he was talking about if a veteran quarterback was going to be brought in, he would make his life hell? Good luck, dude, making Aaron Rodgers' life hell if he is a New York Jet. So we'll see what happens there. The Washington Commanders are in the news as well. So a lot to get to here on this show. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to dive into some of the NFL news items before we bring in Mr. Alex Blickle. So hang tight. Lots to get to here on this show. A few picks on the ice and on the hard court, and on the links as well. Keep your lock. We'll be back in a couple. Welcome back in. There he is. There's the GOAT, Alex Blickle. He is the co-host of Pro versus Pro, which you can catch every single week here live, free on our FTN Network YouTube page, and also the FSWA Golf Writer of the Year. I've talked a lot about you over the past couple of weeks, you not being here, friend of the show. Welcome in. And congratulations, dude. That's fantastic, man. Just, do you remember the article that you wrote? I know you write a lot of good things and you probably submitted a couple different pieces, but do you know the one that got you the hardware?
Well, so you submit 3 for the award. I obviously don't know like which one was the most impactful. If I had to guess, it was the one about the strokes gained driving accuracy metric that we have at FTN. Nobody else has it. Basically, it's kind of like I know a lot of your audience is very familiar with the NFL. So my favorite comparison about it is it's kind of like a composite of completion percentage over expectation and EPA per play, but for golf, where driving accuracy, traditional stats for it are the percentage of fairways hit or how many fairways are you hitting more or less than your opponents. And so this does a couple things wrong. Number one is it doesn't count for the distance that a player hits it. If one guy is hitting it 320, he has a much smaller margin for error to still hit the fairway than someone hitting it like 280. So you're adjusting for distance the way completion percentage over expectation adjusts for the average depth of target. Nice. And then, of course, not every miss is created equal. Like if there's water down the left and you snap hook it into the water and you're hitting 3 off the tee, that's a much worse shot than if you just barely miss the fairway into the right rough, have a great angle in, that sort of thing. So I think it's been a really, really helpful metric for us at FTN, and I suppose they liked the article as well.
I guess they did. Yes, I suppose that they did like the article. When you're looking at statistics, and I know how driven you are in looking at those numbers, not just in the PGA, but in the NBA and in the NFL as well. Is it too early to be looking at some of these numbers, from a golf standpoint? I heard Justin Thomas, like I'm watching a lot of the press conferences and the interviews this week, and Justin Thomas talking about, I think a reporter mentioned that he was number 1 in like strokes gained or in around the green, like basically, the short game and things like that. And he basically said, it's a little early. It's a little skewed. Yeah. Thank you for the credit. May not be here at the end of the day. I do agree. My short game is kind of cleaned up a little bit. I know you're watching closely at some of these numbers, but is there anyone that, we'll get into the tournament in a little bit, is there anyone that kind of jumps out? It's like, wow, he's kind of changed his game a little bit, or is it just too early just yet to be really taking that data and applying it to each week?
I love this question because it gets to one of the other like main research projects that I did last year, which is basically looking at what aspects of golf are the most important to look at in smaller samples. Like Justin Thomas is saying, hey, you know what? We don't have much of a sample size yet this year. And yet there are aspects of the game where you can say, okay, this change, even though it's in a small sample, is very meaningful. And I think the guy who stands out the most to me so far this year is Keith Mitchell. He has always been really good off the tee, but he has been phenomenal off the tee this year. And in his last 20 rounds, in fact, he's gaining almost half a stroke per round in driving distance alone, and then over 3/4 of a stroke per round just through his driving accuracy.
Wow.
He's been phenomenal off the tee. He's also talked a lot really about the effort that he has put into his iron play and his short game, and he's seeing improvements there. And part of that too has been, he's not just improved in those skill sets, but he's really credited that improvement to better decision making, realizing, hey, you know what? I am so good off the tee. I don't need to be super aggressive with my irons. I can take more conservative lines so that my misses aren't as bad as they used to be, and I'll still get some good shots. And now I'm not losing back the advantage that I created off the tee. So he's really taken huge strides this year. And I think whenever you can credit an improvement to a mental improvement, not just a physical improvement, it's then more likely to translate into the future.
Yeah, good call. And I don't know if you've caught the Netflix feature Full Swing, but I know a lot of just loose golf fans are talking about that. And I just saw this morning that they're going to do a second season, but talking about the mental part of the game, and you really feel it. And I mean, you obviously, I don't have to tell you that, but a lot of people out there in golf, and then just golfing maybe once a month, or people out there twice a month, man, the game is so tough. It's challenging. You're feeling good. You're feeling yourself. And then the mental part of it, it really has a lot to do with the sport itself. Is it fair to say, I know all the time, like drive for show, putt for dough, right? Like putting is huge, and nobody can make a putt last week on Sunday. It was actually amazing to watch. I mean, Jordan Spieth was struggling with the putter, and a lot of golfers down the stretch of the Arnold Palmer Invitational on Sunday could not make a putt. Is it fair to say that like ball striking over putting this week is the key statistic that you were looking at? Am I wrong?
It always is. Yeah. Drive for show, putt for dough is kind of like you run to win in the NFL. No, you don't. You run when you're winning. And it's kind of similar in golf. You're making putts when you are hitting good shots to set yourself up. Like the biggest thing I always point to is, even if you're missing putts, you're going to do a lot better if your putts are for birdie and everybody else's putts are for par. Like that's just kind of the nature of the game. And I do think this course maybe is even a little bit more geared in that way, just because the bad shots here are penalized so much more, and the good shots are rewarded so much more, because there are a lot of what I call high leverage shots on this golf course, where, you can think of the par 5 16th hole, a really good approach shot. You're going to give yourself an opportunity for eagle. But even if you miss that eagle putt, it's pretty much on a short birdie. On a bad approach shot there on the 16th is going to be in the water. Now you're dropping, trying to get up and down just to save your par. You can say the exact same thing about the 17th hole, where the best shots are going to give yourself a birdie look. The worst shots, you're now hitting 3 from a drop zone or even back on the tee box. So yeah, I do think ball striking even takes a higher precedent this week. But it's honestly like just a really, really good test of golf all around.
Yeah, and a tough finish there, as you mentioned, 16, and then the island green there on 17. Quan, do you have some of? There's a graphic that you used over at Pro versus Pro with some statistics on it. Quan, I don't know if you have that one handy. If you do, yeah, walk us through this. Look at this. Walk us through what this means.
Well, first of all, it means that George is a superstar with the graphics. Like that's
100%.
where we have to start here. This thing is beautiful.
Yes.
But basically, the course fit model tells us which skill sets are most likely to translate into success at a course. So this is different than saying, like a lot of people will look at historical results here at Sawgrass and say, hey, everybody who does well here has gained a ton with approach. And that's of course true, because as we just talked about, there are so many high leverage shots. So the guys who are on the top of the leaderboard, what did? They avoided all of the water and they set themselves up for eagles. So it's not surprising to see approach there, but that only helps us if we're able to really accurately predict approach. And it turns out that that's not quite as predictive here as some of these others. Strokes gain driving accuracy is the number one thing here. And I think that gets back to the whole course management idea here, where strokes gain driving accuracy really contains this signal of how well a guy is managing his round, how well he is strategizing his plan of attack for this golf course, which is such a challenging golf course. And again, it gets to just managing your misses. So are you taking lines such that when you miss, when you don't execute the shot quite like you want, you are still in play and you can still recover on the hole? Or are you in the water and now playing your third after a penalty stroke, that sort of thing? So we see that driving accuracy go way up. Approach play is a little bit down, but this is a really cool thing that we've added this year at FTN, where we're really looking at approach skill in different buckets, and we're crediting Data Golf for this data. And we can break it down into 50 to 100 yards, 100 to 150, 150 to 200, and then 200 plus. And that 150 to 200 yard range pretty much contains all of the predictive value for approach play this week. Really interesting find. And so approach play is down overall just a little bit in terms of predictive value, but that mid-iron range is really up. And so that's another really cool thing about this course fit model. Honestly, like this is, as I talked about on Twitter this week, this is the single most powerful and most reliable course fit model that we get all season. And it's kind of counterintuitive because everybody knows how high variance this course is because of all this water, because of the wind and that sort of thing. So it's really cool that we can actually predict who does well here quite well.
Yeah, and Alex Blickle won on the Twitter machine. I saw the thread. I retweeted it as well. I'm going to put actually a link inside the description of this video for people to check out. And just a little bit of a sneak peek of some of the stuff you write about and also talk about on Pro versus Pro, guys. Fantastic stuff if you are just kind of getting into golf or you are a golf fanatic. I know there's a lot of people at Game Plus Network who absolutely love you hopping on here every other week. So do appreciate that. And, you know, when you're talking about balls in the water, I always think about our buddy Pat Mayo with the Denzel training day meme. I didn't know you like to get wet. And it's usually one of the guys that I have some cash on. I'm like, I can't be mad at Mayo for that. And I kind of chuckle myself as well. So let's get into it. Just take a look at the top of the board. And I know you do such a great job of finding, seeking value and whatnot. So, but I just wanted to bring, the guys that are favored here up at the top. Rory and Scotty and Rom are actually going to be in a pair. They're going to start on the back nine together. So that's going to be a fun grouping for those three guys and for everybody watching as well. Rory at 9-1, Scotty at 10-1, John Rom there at 10-1, 5 for 5 in terms of making the cut here. 2 top 15s. And of course, just a phenomenal golfer. When the putter is hot, man, he's really hard to take down. Patrick Cantlay at 16-1, Justin Thomas, 2021 winner here. We have Max Homa at 22-1, Morikawa at 22-1 as well. Xander at 25-1, Hovland at 28-1, Tony Finau and Justin Day at 28-1. We see AS in the house. Jay Day, top 20 finish. And I know last time I feel like definitely once before this year, you and I have chatted about Day, a 2016 winner, 2 top 10s since this season, 5 top 10s, 9 top 25s. He's third in bogey avoidance. He's just been fantastic this season. Willie Z, I was on him in 2021, broke my heart. broke my heart. Hatton at 35-1. You see Spieth there at 35-1 as well, which will be paired up. Spieth and Thomas will be in a group as well, starting tomorrow. So just talk to me about these golfers here. And obviously, the top of the board usually stands out most tournaments, but who does stand out from a betting standpoint, from maybe a DraftKings standpoint, a guy that you want to spend up on?
I will start with this just kind of three-headed monster at the top, Rory, Scheffler, and Rahm. The fact that they're all paired together is really interesting. And I wish that we had this information earlier, because my co-host of Pro vs. Pro, Justin Bates, he's a big proponent of the pairings actually mattering and how guys are going to play, like just their comfort level, their confidence level, how much, like what the size of the following is that's kind of following them all around the golf course. So I'm very curious to hear his thoughts about all three of those guys being paired together. That's a super cool.
They're trying to one up each other, really, too. Like you're going to bring it anyways, but when you're playing with the three best golfers in the world, I mean, that's pretty spectacular.
Yeah. And then the other guy that I want to talk about it, and of course, George is chiming in here in the comments about Jason Day. I don't think that he's a good outright bet this week. I think he's a phenomenal play, but these odds are so short for him relative to what we've been seeing and what I think we should see. He seems to me like a phenomenal DraftKings play, really good chalk, but I don't really like this number for him. There are two guys around him that I like a lot more that I actually have bets on this week. That's Tony Finau, 28-1, and then Will Zalatoris, 35-1. And I kind of feel like the fact that they are the odds that they are illustrates my point on Jason Day. Like Finau and Zalatoris have been far superior golfers to Jason Day over the last few years. And they've even been better than the Jason Day that we're seeing right now. And I'm a big time believer that Jason Day is kind of back, and we're not just seeing like a flash in the pan from him, but that he has really improved. He's a very different golfer, honestly, than who he was when he was dominating. Like at the time, he was dominating with his length off the tee. Now he's doing it with more accuracy off the tee, and the length is coming back, but the accuracy is now like the foundation of his game. His iron play has improved, and over the last few months, that around the green play and the putting especially have really returned. So as much as I'm a believer in him being back, the fact that I can bet Will Zalatoris and Tony Finau for the same number or even longer odds is definitely my preferred route.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to talk me into Zalatoris, dude. You really don't. I am a sucker for him, and he does make me just like everybody who bets, or if they don't bet and they watch him, they're like, "Whoa, look at this guy putt." He does. He kind of. I always just sit back a little bit. I just think about on Sundays when I watch golf with my old man, and he just gets like nervous watching. He's like, man, he makes me nervous watching him. But terrific ball striker, and you mentioned some of the improvements as well, as you see there. 35-1, a little DK play there for you over at ftnbets.com. I got some like longer shots here. I actually put together this list, so please pick it apart if some of these names are absolutely atrocious. So you mean Ricky 2015 winner, Sam Burns there, Justin Rose I just chucked on. I feel like he's in decent form, and he just kind of surprises sometimes, and you see plus 450 for a top 20. By the way, AS Justin Day at FanDuel's plus 135 for a top 20 finish, using our prop shop to get the best possible odds there. I see a lot of other books at like plus 100. FanDuel offering the best there. Corey Connors, shout out to the Canadian boy. Keegan Bradley. So this is what I was talking about, like ball striking over putting. 6 for 6 with a pair of top 10s here, T16. And I feel like the putter has improved over the years. A T10 at Bay Hill. Am I ludicrous to put this guy on the board? Like, what about a top 10 finish at plus 450? Would you be shocked?
I wouldn't at all. He's another guy that I would kind of categorize with Jason Day as a fantastic play on DraftKings, even with the ownership. Kind of two guys who are just great chalk. And I like this number for the outright. It's super close for me to bet it. I think if there was a 60, I would definitely grab that anywhere. Kind of a similar story with Corey Connors. I do think Keegan has a better chance of winning. I think when you look at the overall volatility of these two guys, Corey Connors is sort of the guy who what you're getting week in, week out. And there is some volatility just based on his putting. But with Connors, you kind of feel like there's a higher floor and a lower ceiling. Keegan has the volatility where he can actually contend and win in a field like this. But the guy who stands out on that list for me is Sam Burns. I I've got that bet as well. I actually added him at 90 today.
Oh, wow.
I don't know why it's going up, but man, he is way too good of a golfer to ever be these odds. He was 50 to 1 last week, and I bet it and said this guy should never be 50 to 1 to win a golf tournament. And now we're getting like a 50% boost on that at minimum. So I think this is a phenomenal bet. It's definitely my favorite of the week. He was in contention last year until Sunday. I don't really care much about course history, but it is nice to see that, just because his two weaknesses are the two parts of the game that course fit model really pointed to: driving accuracy and around the green play are actually his two weaknesses. So it's nice that he was able to find himself in contention. But basically, I'm fully okay with just completely ignoring course fit for Sam Burns, because when he has it, it's he gets to this level where like his best can compete with the best of Jon Rahm, the best of Scotty Scheffler. Very few people in this price range, if anyone else, can say that. His best is phenomenal. And then he also really has the skill of winning. Whenever we've seen him get into contention, he has this unique ability to kind of pull through and just get the job done. So I love this outright on him. I don't know that I'm getting there on DraftKings. It's kind of like the opposite of Keegan and Connors, honestly, where he's going to be lower owned on DraftKings, is barely more expensive. And yet, as much as I love his outright, I'm a little bit wary of him on DraftKings. So that's going to be one of my biggest decisions in the rest of the day.
I love it. Prop Shop is your friend, guys. As you see, Alex talking about maybe the number rising a little bit, so potentially getting a better number there than 75 to 1 over at PointsBet. Let's hear the punt plays, Alex. As George says, you got a punt play or two for our guy?
I don't have a punt play this week, honestly, but maybe what I'll do instead is say Keith Mitchell, who I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
He's 250 to 1 on Bet Rivers to win the Masters. Now, it's been a couple hours since I placed that and sent it on the Discord, so I can't promise that number is still there, but it's available within each way, 1/4 payout for 5 spots. So if you want a punt play, George, just bet Keith Mitchell in the Masters at that number. It's going to be a much, much better bet than anyone here at the Players.
Yeah, George turned some of that hockey money into some PGA money there for you, dude. Right there for you. Henley, he says with a question mark. On the way out, Daniel Jones, switching gears for a second, signs a 4-year, $160 million contract. As an Eagles fan, does that put a smile on your face that he's sticking inside the division for 4 years? And are you surprised with his contract?
So this is actually breaking news to me. I haven't seen that yet. That's great.
Perfect.
I think I am happy about this. Like, I think Daniel Jones is a quality player, and I think that Dable certainly is able to get the best out of him. But I do think this kind of stunts their ceiling a little bit. Like, I don't see Daniel Jones ever winning a Super Bowl. So yeah, I'd say I think I'm leaning towards being happy about that, even though like they probably would have had to take a step back to take 2 steps forward if they didn't get this deal done.
Right.
But 1 step forward for the Giants doesn't really concern me.
It's kind of tongue in cheek there, shots at the Giants, but he did have a really good season, I guess, 15 passing touchdowns, but he did have a good season and he cleaned up some of the carelessness to his game for sure. He cleaned it up a little bit, fewer turnovers. And I do believe in Brian Dable. So I guess if he believes in Daniel Jones, there is some reason to be excited. On the way out, you think the Eagles with pick 10 address the cornerback position? We had a mock here earlier in the week and we had them, just addressing corner at 10. There's a couple different ways they could go. There's, you see, got Witherspoon there, but we could see like 4 or 5 corners in the first 20 picks here in this draft.
Yeah, honestly, I'm at a point now where Howie has completely won me over, and I'm just in full. I trust Howie with whatever decision he makes mode. And I think a cornerback is probably the most likely, but I also think if their guy has been taken, then they're happy just taking the best available. So excited to see what they do, but I'll be happy with it, whatever it is.
And 2 picks in the first round. Blickle, you're fantastic, man. Congratulations again. FSWA Golf Writer of the Year. Check out Pro versus Pro, all the goods over at FTN Fantasy, FTN Bets, and FTNDaily.com. Always active in the Discord channel. It's not just pre-tournament, after every single round, talking some PrizePicks plays and all kinds of golf props as well. So check him out, Alex Blickle1 on Twitter. Good luck, dude. Enjoy the golf. It should be fantastic. And I can't wait to chop it up with you again. So we'll take a quick break. We'll dive into some other NFL news. We got some NHL picks and NBA picks for our guy George as well. Keep her locked. We'll be back in a couple.
I can't say enough about what we've got going on over at FTNBets.com.
At FTN Bets, your bankroll can be profitable. With the FTN Bet Tracker, you can tell your favorite experts across all sports, including the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I'm your host, Chris Meaney.
And with our premium content, you can take your bets to the next level. Only $49.99 a month. Use the tools the pros use at FTN. Our betting models run over 100,000 simulations of every game, with sides and totals in the NFL, the NBA, and more. Use the home run predictor to see who'll hit a bomb deep. Our NFL player projections will make you a DFS king. And the FTN Prop Shop always finds the best odds for your player props. All tools, projections, and models are powered by FTN data.
Welcome back in Mean Streets here live on Game Plus Network, our FTN Network YouTube page, brought to you by So Rare. Great stuff there from Alex Blickle. Listen, George, let us know the punt plays that you are feeling on DraftKings or FanDuel this week. You know a thing or two about golf, right? You know a thing or two about three putts. Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it from you. A couple NFL news items, really addressed them already, but going to dive into them just a little bit deeper here. As yesterday was the deadline to place the franchise tag on some players, and we did see that a couple days ago. We talked about Josh Jacobs and Evan Ingram getting the franchise tag, paying for Washington franchise tag as well. Let's start here with Daniel Jones, and we brought it up in the last block. So he does sign a 4-year, $160 million contract with the New York Giants. There's some incentives in his contract to get a little bit more money as well. So Daniel Jones, really been taking some shots at him, but ultimately it was a good season for him, an improvement for sure. I know he only threw 15 passing touchdowns. His 3,200 passing yards was the most that he's thrown or in the NFL in a season. Before that was 3,000 in his rookie season, a really decent rookie season, 3,000 passing yards and 24 touchdowns. But the biggest thing for me with Daniel Jones last year, a 67% completion rate, which was by far the best mark of his career, 64% for his career, with that bump from 64% in 2021 to 67% just last year, 7 rushing touchdowns. But as I mentioned with Alex, he really cleaned up his game, only 5 interceptions, and it didn't look like it was going to go great for him early on. There was some, you guys remember the kerfuffle on the sidelines with Daniel Jones, and I think he had one game where he tossed a couple picks, and I think it was early on. He had 2 interceptions in his first 3 games, and some carelessness throwing the football, and Daboll's kind of just laying into him on the sidelines, and it's like, oh, this isn't going to go well. There's no way. He's got 1 foot out the door, and that's it. But the Giants went on to win a few games. Not a lot of weapons inside this offense. Let's be real. Kenny Golladay gave them nothing. 1 touchdown at the very end of the season, week 18. It was like seconds left in the game. He's no longer a member of the Giants, but, we saw moments from Isaiah Hodgins and Richie James, but really there wasn't a whole lot to like about the wide receiver room, Darius Slayton. So Jones did good with what he had. 7 rushing touchdowns last year was a career high for him, 708 rushing yards as well, a career high. In the Giants, They got two, signed 2 running backs yesterday. They placed a franchise tag on Saquon Barkley. I feel bad even talking about it. It's just like, who are you to even say that? Daniel Jones, I think it may be a mistake. I think it's a lot of money. I know it's tough to pay running backs, at this day and age. we talked about the Cowboys yesterday on All in Football with Jake Seeley and stepmom Lauren about the most money, like 12% of their cap. Dallas, I think it's a record in terms of money spent on running backs, and Tony Pollard getting franchise tag, and then Zeke and the money that he makes as well. So I get it. It's tough to sign maybe Saquon to a 4 or 5 year deal, but I would have maybe went the route of franchise tagging Daniel Jones and saying, like, prove it 1 more year, prove it to me, because it is tough to just really wrap my head around giving him that kind of dough when he threw for 15 touchdowns. Like, he's had 1 good season, but I do believe in Brian Daboll. And if Brian Daboll believes in Daniel Jones, and I'm sure he does, because if he didn't, I mean, they wouldn't have went this route. So I'm sure that he feels like he can improve his game even to another level. They did make the playoffs. They won a playoff game as well. So credit to Daniel Jones. He's definitely the guy that's earned himself the most money from this time last year to this point right now. Significant pay raise, as I mentioned, 1 foot out the door. It was looking like he was going to be gone. And I would have said it this time last year. I said, no way, this is it. It's a 1 year thing. And I'm not comparing Daniel Jones to Josh Allen. But Josh Allen, when he came out of college, he wasn't accurate. In his first year, was not accurate either. In his second year, there was growth. In third year, he really took off. Now, part of it, of course, bringing in some weapons, great route runners, and Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley, and the play calling with Brian Daboll. Let's see now here in year 2 together and what the Giants do. The mock draft you saw in the last block, I got them taking a wide receiver, and I think that they'll be aggressive taking a wide receiver. I don't know if that wide receiver is out there through free agency. I know Slayton is a free agent. I believe Richie James is as well, and Hodgins, as I mentioned, on the squad. So not a lot of moving pieces there. I'm sure they're going to have a much better offense surrounding now what is their future quarterback for the next couple of years, Daniel Jones. But all the news is around Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, yesterday, the Baltimore Ravens placed the non-exclusive franchise tag there on Lamar. So what that means here is $32.4 million for this year. Jackson could have contract negotiations with other teams under the tag. The Ravens can match the deal or take 2 first-round picks if Jackson decides to sign with another team. I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like Lamar should be paid. I mean, listen, everybody was talking to Deshaun Watson last year, giving guaranteed money, and I don't think Deshaun Watson's all that great. Plus, he had all the off-field drama with him as well. I would like to see the Ravens pay this guy. You could see how they were offensively when they didn't have him, and it was awful. It was brutal. Huntley could not get it done. It's going to be interesting to see how this does shape out. As I mentioned earlier, 5 or 6 teams reportedly just right away said they're not interested, like Washington, Carolina, Atlanta, teams that need quarterbacks, not interested in a former MVP. I find that pretty strange, to be honest. What are the Ravens thinking here? I think at first my thought process was like, wow, they're really kind of mistreating him and not really respecting him. Why don't they pay him? They don't want to pay him the money that he wants. Maybe he wants too much money. He doesn't want 55 plus. There's reports out there they want 55 million a year. Like, that is pretty significant. And now the Ravens will get a feel. So will Lamar, about his true worth, right? Ravens will get a feel from other teams. Are they going to be aggressive to start negotiations with him and give him a contract? Is Lamar going to sign that contract? We're going to get a really good feel of how teams value Lamar Jackson, how, Lamar Jackson really kind of values himself, and also same with the Ravens and how they really view Lamar Jackson. And maybe this will be a win for Baltimore at the end of the day. And maybe they'll save a few bucks if teams aren't aggressive going after him. Other news items here as well is Aaron Rodgers, as I mentioned earlier, reportedly meeting with the Jets. We'll see what happens there. The Jets would be a borderline Super Bowl contender for me, honestly, if they did have Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not even the hugest Aaron Rodgers fan, but I do believe in that defense. They've just done a really good job over the past couple of years drafting solid pieces as well. So we'll see what happens there with Aaron Rodgers. And my guess is he goes back to Green Bay. That's my guess. This is Aaron Rodgers' world. We're just living in it. And then Ron Rivera, before I came on here, said that if a veteran beats out Sam Howell, quote, so be it. I don't know what veteran that could be. Do they bring in Jacoby Brissett, Andy Dalton, Jimmy Garoppolo, Gardner Minshew? Taylor Heineke is not under contract. Do they bring back Taylor Heineke? Rodgers is not going to be an option there in Washington. I think they're going to roll with Sam Howell. We haven't seen a whole lot from him. but I think they're going to roll with him. And my goodness, they've had 14 different quarterbacks since Kirk Cousins left. 14 different quarterbacks, probably 15 when they bring in a veteran. Figure it out, Washington. My goodness, figure it out. Go get Lamar Jackson. Go get Lamar Jackson. You got Jahan Dotson. You got Terry McLaurin. You got some nice pieces there in Washington. Nice running back and Robinson. Go get yourself a quarterback and stop messing around, Commanders, because you got a couple tough teams on the rise inside the NFC East, that's for sure. Say goodbye to the football news for now. We got some NHL picks next, NBA picks as well. We're going to take a look at the great baseball, fantasy baseball invitational as well. Lots to get to here on Mean Streets. Don't go anywhere.
At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win.
More Lamar Jackson here for a second. I just saw a JJ Watt tweet earlier too about how he doesn't understand, like, why are these teams publicly coming out and saying that they're out on Lamar Jackson? And it's like he said himself, like, am I missing something here? I already did a video I saw on TikTok. I mean, it's not like go rush and watch it. It's not fantastic, but I did give my top 5 landing spots for Lamar Jackson. And I got 3 teams here that I think should be aggressive in getting him. I think the Detroit Lions should do it. Like, Jared Goff had a nice season. Go get Lamar, right? You got Amon-Ra there, and you got a couple first-round picks. You've done a good job over the years in drafting. You're right there. I think you're right there. You're on the rise. The Packers are on the decline. The Vikings aren't scaring you at all. Offensively, they can bring it, but Kirk Cousins is a little bit older. Thielen, Justin Jefferson's a stud, but the defense has a ton of holes. I'd say the Lions. I'd say the Falcons. Like, go. You're not set on Desmond Ridder. This is nothing against Desmond Ridder. This is an opportunity to get a former MVP that's 26 years old here, Lamar Jackson. So I would love that landing spot. And Kyle Pitts, I'm not ready to close the book on. You can't close the book on Kyle Pitts. He's a freak. He just hasn't had great quarterback play. And then Drake London looks fantastic too. And I'd say the Raiders. Right? And Devontae Adams and Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. The Lions are 30-1? Quan's telling me the Lions are 30-1 at Caesars win the Super Bowl. I like them to win the division whether they get Lamar Jackson or not. And if they do get Lamar Jackson, and clearly those odds are going to change, but I think they're on the rise. They almost made the playoffs last year. They beat the Packers at the end of the season, at Lambeau, when the season was on the line for the Packers. Not so much for Detroit. They already knew that they were eliminated because, as we talked about before, the NFL gave Aaron Rodgers a little bit of a layup there. And it didn't work out for Aaron Rodgers. But those are teams I'd be interested in. Quan's also telling me 66-1 to win for the Raiders. My one thing with the Raiders is they don't have the defense. It would be fun. They'd be electric on offense for sure. They don't have the defense where the Lions do have some defensive players, right? They got lockdown corners. They got some guys that can get after you, a quarterback as well. And the offensive line is fantastic in Detroit. They got some playmakers. So I really like the small shot there on the Detroit Lions 30-1. Thank you for that, Quan. It's very interesting. And I do definitely like them to win the division. If you can get me those odds while I rattle off some NHL props for you guys, we'll do that. I'm going to start here with Kirill the Thrill $dollar Bill Kaprizov, Minnesota Wild, over 3.5 shots here tonight. He has 6+ shots in 4 of his last 5 games. And the games that he really hasn't done it over the past 10 games or so, because he has 4+ shots in 7 of his last 10 games, have been against tough opponents. The Winnipeg Jets are a tough opponent. This should be a good game. Minnesota has actually played to the under in 16 of their last 18 games and 12 of their last 13 games. So I do have a lean to the under in this matchup. And last night, Calgary won 1-0 against the Wild. But I do like Kaprizov here in this spot to get 4 shots. As I mentioned, 6+ shots in 4 of his last 5 games and 4+ in 7 of his last 10. You got Brock Besser. Is not a guy that I go to. There's only 3 games on the ice, but I do like this pick. I'm not just giving it for the sake of giving picks, to be honest with you guys. But Brock Besser plus 125. This is the best possible matchup, not just tonight, in the NHL. You got the Ducks, according to Natural Stat Trick, have given up the most shot attempts, the most shots, the most high danger chances, scoring chances, highest expected goals against rate, the most goals against at 5-5 per 60. Again, from our friends over at Natural Stat Trick. Brock Besser has only cleared in 3 of his last 7 games. He is a sneaky candidate to find the back of the net here tonight, but I am going to take the over 2.5 shots. Seth Jones has cleared this in 3 straight games, 11 shots over that span. He's played 27 minutes twice in his last 5 games. He is logging a ton of ice time, nearly playing half of the games in Chicago, like 40% of the games. It's significant. They get a couple power plays. He could rack up a couple shots there. So taking the over 2.5 at plus 105 for Seth Jones. I really like Andrei Kuzmenko's game. I love it. Point prop is a little bit juiced. It's a little bit too much. Maybe in the same game parlay over at Bet365, you can check him and Anthony Beauvillier together, but plus 156 for an assist here. I mentioned the matchup is fantastic against the Ducks. 29 goals and 27 assists in 62 games in his first year in the NHL. 8 points in his last 10 games. 12 over that span, 7 goals and 5 assists. Also a good candidate just to score a goal if you wanted to go that route as well instead of the assist. But I do think he finds the score sheet. And then finally, Nino Niederreiter. I mentioned that game between the Jets and the Wild could be low scoring, and I do expect it to be low scoring. But I'm really impressed with Nino Niederreiter. He's got points in 3 straight games here with the Jets. He's played 4 with Winnipeg. He has a goal, the 3 points, 9 shots, 19 minutes and 20 minutes in his last 2 games. In his first 48 games with Nashville, he averaged just under 16 minutes per game. So he's on the top line in Winnipeg. He's on the first power play as well, minus 106 for a 0.5 pick parlay. Away you go. May have to be a same game parlay. Lions plus 160 to win the NFC North over at PointsBet and to win the NFC 12-1. Well, we know that's going to happen with the Birds there. We'll be back in a couple. I got some NBA picks here next on Mean Streets.
At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win.
Welcome back in. Got a couple NBA props here for you. Going to lead with Kyrie Irving of the Dallas Mavericks. Kyrie's been just absolutely spectacular, honestly. I know the Mavs are kind of like hanging around 500 since Kyrie was acquired by Dallas. And really, him and Luka didn't play a lot together at the start, but they have together recently. And I just don't know how you stop this duo, quite honestly. And defensively, they don't have it as a team, Dallas, for sure. And they did play last night. Kyrie had 33 points, 3 threes, 6 boards, and 8 assists. He's got at least 30 points in 3 straight games. So he's been right at this number without the assists. And if you combine the assists, 41 points and assists in his last game last night, 37 the game before that, and 46 before that. With Dallas, 9 games here with the Mavs. 10, excuse me. He's averaging 27.6 points, 6.9 assists, and 3.2 threes made. Now, these numbers here that I'm about to tell you are probably unsustainable. 52% from the floor, 42% from beyond the arc, and 94% from the line. He's averaging 5.1 free throw attempts per game, which is tied for the most in his career. He just had 4.5 with Brooklyn. The shot attempts are down slightly. Of course, they would be with a guy like Luka, but these two are actually really, really good together. The chemistry I'm seeing is starting to build. And they're a scary duo and a matchup here against the Pelicans. I do like this spot for Kyrie, over 35.5 points and assists at -110. A couple other NBA props that I like here for this evening. Tyler Hero's on the board, over 2.5 threes. 3+ threes in 3 straight games and 5 of his last 7. Usually jacks up about 5 or 6 shots from beyond the arc. Zach LaVine's on a heater. It's a bit of a tough matchup against Denver for sure. Over 25.5 points, 42 and 41 points in 2 of his last 3 games. He's cleared this number in 3 straight and 7 of his last 9 contests. Al Horford, this is all about Robert Williams being out. Horford didn't play in the Celtics last game. The last time he did play, he had 46 minutes, 20-plus points in 2 of his last 3 games. He had 6 threes in his last matchup, and he had 6 threes in 2 matchups before that. So he's had at least 6 threes in 2 of his last 4 games. Just over 9.5 points. I think we get it. If he hits a couple threes, we'll be on our way. Again, Robert Williams is out, so more minutes here for Al Horford. And then a parlay at the end. Canadian boy, Murray, over 2.5 threes here for Jamal. And Jamal's actually been, since he's been back in the lineup, he's played 5 games. He's cleared in 5 of his last 6. He's got 18 threes over his last 4 games, 5, 4, 5, and 4. Overall, he's cleared 2.5 3-pointers in 8 of his last 9 matchups. And then Kevin Durant's numbers have increased. He's played 3 games now with the Suns, 27 minutes in his first game, 31 minutes in his second, 40 in his third, and he's had at least 2 threes in each one of those games. You just need 2 threes here. It's a little bit juiced to play both of these guys as a single. I think Murray's at -145 and KD is at -150. So I put them both into a parlay over at DraftKings, and we got +181. That's your parlay of the night there, Mr. George. Tyler Hero over 2.5 threes. We got one more segment here on Mean Streets and a little bit of baseball talk to round out the show. Keep your lock. We'll be back in a couple. Oh, we're back just like that. Whoa, live television. I thought there was going to be one more commercial break. Here I am writing notes. Love it. Well, live TV. Maybe pay attention a little bit here. Okay, let's do round 6. Let's do round 6. I want to show you guys the average draft position over at NFBC. You kind of snuck up on me there, Quan. Okay, Salvador Perez. Christian Javier, Devin Williams, O'Neal Cruz, Alec Manoah, who we addressed yesterday, Alex Bregman, Eloy Jimenez, Teoscar Hernandez, former J, now a member of the Seattle Mariners, Tommy Edman, Max Fried, Corbin Carroll, who, man, that guy is quick, and he is a highlight reel, man. He is running around bases. Of course, you got to get on base to steal bags, but I saw him get a triple in spring training the other day, which I think most people would have had to really stretch to get that into a double. Raciel Iglesias there, now going to be the full-time closer in Atlanta. He was acquired from the Halos at the MLB trade deadline last year, but he didn't have that closer role with the Braves. I think he's a really good target in around that range. We talked about the strategy in rotisserie leagues. You can't punt saves. You got to get yourself a top 10 closer. I think he makes for a really good target in around pick 74. Christian Javier is my guy. That's the guy that I want every kind of share of. And last year we talked a lot about him in drafts, and he was basically free. Now with Justin Verlander no longer there, and Lance McCullers not throwing yet, dealing with an injury and has a long injury history, I think Christian Javier is going to emerge as the ace here for the Houston Astros. He's going to come at you with a double-digit K per 9. The Astros are going to have all kinds of run support for this guy. I think he's a sneaky Cy Young candidate, and I want to make him a target in almost all of my drafts. Other guys on this board as we get out of here, Devin Williams, I don't mind. Again, and just in a rotisserie league, I don't think it's needed in a head-to-head format. I don't think you need to spend a top 70 pick really on a closer for just one category. I like the value on Bregman. I like the value on Teoscar Hernandez. And, you know, I am a sucker for Eloy Jimenez. He hasn't been able to put together really that many healthy seasons since he's entered the league. He's not going to come at you with any speed, but I do believe that he has upside to be a top 10 outfielder in fantasy without that speed. I really do believe he is the real deal. So hopefully he can put it all together. Those would be my targets here in round 6. Good luck on the ice, on the hard court, and on the links. Keegan Bradley 50-1 plus 450 for a top 10 finish. Enjoy all the sports tonight. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Cheers.